How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Underdog Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Cameron. I'm here today with my friend Brett. Been friends with him for, I don't know how long.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Probably like 4 or 5 years. Maybe
Yeah,
longer than that.
5 years or so.
So Brett's got some new music out, and I wanted to talk to him about that today and talk about life in general, and just had a couple questions for him. So I guess first thing I could ask is, we're sitting in a church office right now in Rockland, California.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Man. Well, it's awesome to see you too, by the way. I'm stoked
nice
that you
to see
reached out. We have such an awesome history. So, it's a funny thing, like, a lot of the time that we've known each other too, the past 5 years or so, there's been this massive, like, wrestle between work and what I truly love is music and creating things and writing and all that good stuff. And I'm also a Christian, so naturally there used to be all these fears that I was kind of being torn apart from. You know, I obviously had to make a living for my family and myself, but I also had this deep love and for music and all that stuff. What's crazy is that I never really intended to have a career in church or ministry. I guess you could say church building, so to speak. But what I found is that within kind of this season that we're in, a lot of the different arenas of my life all kind of collide. So working in a church, I'm a worship director, worship leader here, and what's really cool is that a lot of my job is just being entangled in people's lives and building up artists to be connected with each other and with the Lord, and that's honestly a lot of the kind of that's basically my main purpose with the music I write too. And so it's just cool. I now get to I feel like I'm never actually stepping out of what I love, so it's more my life is a lot more seamless now, working at a church in worship ministry, because it's an art form. So
very cool.
yeah.
Then sorry, just stupid text messages. It's a segue. Every time you answer a question, we'll continue to do
ding. It's a timer. Yeah, you're done.
This is actually a political discussion. Your time is up. No. So I guess I could ask. I've seen you from when you had like older bands. Mm-hmm. Was it Catch Us If You Can?
Oh,
that was an old band.
Oh, it hurts. Yes.
So talk about transition maybe from that to doing like solo stuff. How is that? Is it weirder just doing by yourself, or is it,
Man, I think it's harder in some senses and easier in others. I don't know. I guess the one thing I miss...
Because you used to tour and stuff too, right?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. The one thing I miss about being in a band with other dudes is I definitely do miss the camaraderie that it builds. I miss the family environment that is just constantly in your face, rolling around different towns with your brothers and stuff. It's always something that I will love and look back on and enjoy. But I also did find that, like, just overall in the music industry, music world, I found that a lot of the people that I looked up to for longevity in music eventually had to resort to more like solo mentality in terms of I think simply you just can't break up with yourself. So I could choose one day to stop writing music, but in the band world, I found that, like, one member, two members decide to make a different decision, and the entire foundation of what you love is shaken by that. And I guess also, like, with every person you're adding to the band, there can be slightly different motivations or slightly different directions, which can be beautiful. That's how a lot of bands are so amazing. I personally just never had a sort of seamless vision for music with my bandmates. So there's this constant, like, tension, once again, which can create beautiful things too. But in my sense, I just kind of stayed the course, and as other people are called on to other things, I just kind of kept writing and kept doing my thing. And so it wasn't like I woke up one day and I was like, you know what, I want to do this completely by myself. it's more simply what happened, and I just didn't want to stop, and I felt weird calling myself a band name, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And so, I think for longevity purposes, with this record anyways that I just put out, I just decided to staple my name on it, which was scary, because then I have nothing to hide behind at all. I can't hide behind my best friends who are also in the band. I can't really hide behind a band name that I can walk away from in a year or two. I think I just really, through the writing process, I was like, man, this record is very much me, so might as well just kind of call it, might as well call this project what it is. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And I think, like, I mean, there's artists I know of, too, that go by, like, pseudo-names or, like,
Yeah,
you know, like...
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I still think I'm that cool.
Yeah.
I feel like if you create, like, an awesome stage name for yourself, you better be cool enough to back it up. I'm just not.
So
So
go by, like, Miller Man or...
oh my gosh, dude. Yeah, Miller Man,
Yeah.
Miller Lite, like, I've heard them all, dude. But yeah, I just wouldn't be able to back it up. And you know, if I was in another genre or something, that would actually be really fun. Maybe I can like secretly. I have actually had this. I probably will never do it, by the way. So don't look for this or anything. But just for fun, like write this totally like off the wall random pop music and throw a name on it, but no one, not even my close friends, would know it was me, and just throw it out on iTunes and just let it do whatever. That would be so fun.
Just to see how far.
Yeah, that would be so fun. Just to like, even if only 5 people picked it up, but just to kind of have this this sort of side of you that's really like hidden, and I don't know. That does sound kind of fun. But anyways, yeah, just plain old Brett Lee Miller. And the only reason I threw my middle name in there is because there's other Brett Millers out there doing music, and our Spotify's got entangled when I released a single a while back, and I was like, that's my nightmare. So people are like listening to this kind of weird music, and it's totally not me. They think it is.
Christian artist, and he's like cursing.
I know, right? Yeah, it's like this chaotic, like sexual, like reference. No, but yeah, I just kind of thought it'd be easiest to. I just wanted a clear definition of who I am, and using my name was the easiest way to do that. So.
Gotcha, man.
Yeah.
So explain, what is the name of the? Would it be a CD? It's like 7 songs.
Yeah,
Or is it more than EP?
People keep asking me that. I think it's cool that I can't answer it because I didn't really want to answer. I was like, I don't. Does anyone even know what an EP is, or an LP, or a full length? I don't really know. But I think technically on paper it's probably an LP or an EP.
Okay.
It's definitely not a full length. But I just called it a project, I guess.
There you go.
Because none of the actual like distributor or anything really asked for that info, I don't think. And if they did, I just put album. So
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you're gonna ask. I think you asked what the name of the.
So the name, I'm gonna butcher it here. Topography.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I got it. Okay. Sweet.
Yeah, you did it right. Like. Topography, it's our, I don't know which, people say it differently, but,
So what does it mean, though?
So, in a past life, by that I mean, like, before all this music stuff, I had a couple of careers that were a little more wild than music. I used to be a forestry technician for the Forest Service, which is a wildland firefighter, and I also did 6 years in the National Guard as an infantryman.
Did not know that.
Yeah, that was quite a journey.
Service.
Quite a journey, of course. But for both of those jobs, so this is really cool. Like, I used to never think that any of those experiences could ever entangle with art in any form, and because they're just so opposite worlds. So I thought, but for both of those careers, I had to go through these really intensive wilderness courses, figure out how to read all different types of maps, and how to survive with next to nothing, and all that stuff. And that was my favorite part of the job, was just kind of like stepping foot in places where possibly no one had ever stepped before, or if there have, it's just a handful of people. You know, you're out in the middle of nowhere. And we took this map course, and I learned about topographic maps.
Okay.
Basically, what it is, you've probably seen them. It's basically a view looking down at the land, and there's all these little squiggly lines kind of wrapped around everything. And for peaks, the lines get closer and closer and closer. And then for valleys, they get further and further apart. So without even looking at wilderness, you could like look at a map and tell exactly how deep or tall mountains and valleys are. So it's this really cool way to figure out a safe means of travel, basically.
Gotcha.
So as I started kind of creating a premise for this record, which I didn't do on purpose, I was just trying to write honestly, I started getting a lot of this imagery in my writing of wilderness, I just use a lot of organic language in my songwriting because it inspires me. And I was like, man, at the end of the day, if I made a record that I could hand somebody and be like, this is me, this is a documentation of what's going on in here in language that is completely unique to myself, and hopefully you can find hope in it, or maybe some of that language applies language to what you're going through too. And so the more I just started thinking about why I wanted to make this record, the more I kept seeing that imagery of like, man, this is kind of like a topographic map in a sense. And then when I looked up the word of topography, it literally just means a series of features or a documentation of land. And I was like, man, that is so cool, and it perfectly encapsulates like all of the concepts of these songs. It's just a map of the human soul and what happens with it in really deep valleys and what happens with it on really tall mountains. Because in the past few years I got married, had a baby, walked away from a very secure job, was scared to death. Our daughter had a couple seizures early on. I mean, we're talking like massive hills and valleys, right? And so a lot of these songs were birthed from extremes, and I really wanted to go on a journey of basically conversing with the Lord of like, okay, so because I'm going through these, I don't want to just be a victim of circumstance. I want to see where's the beauty when the lights are out, and where's the beauty when the lights are on. And that's kind of what all these songs are about, is just me wrestling with where's the beauty, either in good or bad seasons. So,
gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you have to, you said your daughter had a seizure. That's crazy. That's nuts.
Thankfully it was fever-induced seizure, and it wasn't anything that, the scariest part of that whole process was
because she was a young age probably then too.
She was 1 year old. I can't remember how far past 1 she was, but we had just experienced the greatest like mountaintop of our life, and then we thought we were losing her, and it was just,
that's scary, man.
Such a foundationally shaking moment. And we went to the ER, and they're like, we got to get the fever down, but she's going to be okay. They ended up sending us home, and one of the last things they said was like, there's only really damage if this happens more than once in a day, and 3 hours later she went to another one. And so the second one was where we were like, either A, thought we were losing her for sure, or B, thought there would at least be lasting brain damage, because her brain had just been shut down too many times in one day.
Wow.
But she's fine, and she's incredible, and has rocked our world in the best way. And so anyways, yeah, wild.
So how does it feel, I guess, like, if we're on the subject of family and stuff, how does it feel trying to juggle work, a wife, a kid, a young kid, mind you, not a teenager, but like a kid, and also I guess the church having to be some sort of a leader in that aspect, and then writing too at the same, like, how do you do that while also like trying to write somewhat of a record?
I have no idea, dude. I don't know how to do it well still. I feel like we're always trying to learn, and it's funny you bring this up today, because like even today I woke up just feeling so overwhelmed with everything, and I think a lot of it depends on the state of my mind and heart. A lot of how well I'm handling these things has to do with how well I'm handling what's in here.
Right.
And when I neglect what's going on in here, I tend to handle everything poorly. And I think it's just been a long-ish season of like burning all of our fuel towards these dreams that we have. And now we're just kind of like, okay, so what does health look like now? And so that's the reality of like waking up today with anxiety and trying to figure out how to balance all this stuff. I don't have any clear answers, but I think I do have some lies that I used to believe that I don't believe anymore. And like one of those is that I think I firmly used to believe, I would never admit this back in the day, but I used to believe that like having kids and a wife, in a sense, would create a lot of friction in the dreams that I wanted to accomplish,
right?
Or at least make it way harder. And what's cool is like, since embracing both of those things, I kind of wrote out a value system before I made this record of like, okay, so if I'm stepping back into music, what are some values that I want to make all my decisions through? And one thing I did feel really, I guess, pressed towards was that I wanted to redefine that lie I used to believe in. I wanted to actually bring my family with me on the journey. Wow. And so when we went back to North Carolina for the month to make the record, I brought them with me, and it was scary. Even just the flight alone was scary with a baby. We're like flying to the other side of the country, and a lot of fear, a lot of just wondering if I made the right call. But man, what I found to be true in that scenario and most scenarios is that the initial discomfort required to like bring your loved ones on the journey of pursuing your dreams, the initial burden, it is there, and it's not there, it's there, but the richness that you experience through the process and on the other side is completely a different level than if you were to just do it by yourself.
Right.
So, like most things in life, there's that push through the gate, and then all of a sudden you realize that what you were fighting for is actually worth it, and more worth it than I could have dreamed. So, I guess the main thing that I'm inspired by when I look at other musicians that I look up to and stuff, it's the people who don't neglect their family to pursue their dreams. And,
there you go. Yeah.
As much as I can travel with my family to make it happen, I will bring them with me. And
right.
If there's real roadblocks that prevent that from happening, then that's understandable. But so far, man, they enrich in the entire process. Even when it's harder to make happen, they just enrich in it. And so same with church. It's like I feel this massive void when they're not here. You know, I feel this massive void when I'm leading worship and my family's not in the building, but they get to be here for that. And so, man, I'm just ridiculously blessed when I look at the arenas of my life and realize that I think I picked the 1, 2, or 3 like paths that family actually is supposed to be or can be incorporated into.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
If I worked in 9 to 5 at a high rise, which I'm not at all against, if I did that, there would be this 9 to 5 separation constantly.
Right. Yeah.
And I so applaud people who figure out how to balance that too. I just happen to like fall into these arenas where I get to bring them along, and I'm really, really like grateful for that. So
that's cool. So we're talking about family. Your wife, in some sense, arguably is also an artist too.
Oh, she is.
She does floral stuff, right?
Completely an artist in every sense of the word. Yeah, man. She is. And she's incredible at what she does. Yeah.
What does she do? What does she do exactly? If you can like.
Yeah.
I've seen like
so
Instagram
cool.
photos of it. I've seen like it looks like framework, but not like floral stuff.
She's amazing. So she basically like. What I say about her is she probably wouldn't use this statement about herself, but it's so true, is that she basically just fills empty spaces with beautiful things. And so she not only is like a floral designer, but she also is kind of like in a sense an event coordinator as well.
Okay.
Curator, whatever you want to call it. She basically looks at places, events, things, people, and she figures out how to sprinkle art over all of it. So she's also like a painter, and she's a calligrapher. She does everything that I can't do creatively. She's incredible at. So she has a company called Oak and Ash, and basically that's her home base for all of her work.
Interesting.
And lately what that's looked like is a lot of weddings and a lot of like private events. She comes in and does, different floral installations, different stuff like that. She, even for my listening party, for the record, I brought her in basically just to fill this kind of empty-ish space with inspiring things, and she did it with living things, which was really cool, like plants and sticks, and she's just really cool. So yeah,
interesting.
Yep.
It's got to be inspiring, I guess, to have like another artist like in the house.
Yep.
Kind of like,
dude, it's so inspiring, and it's also really hard too. That saying that like opposites attract is real for a reason. I think like when you have two people that counterbalance each other, there's a lot more overarching stability, I guess. But with us, we're both extremely creative. We both view the world through a lens of feeling. Everything we view the world through is through a lens of feeling. And so that can also be really hard. But the Lord is like really good to us, man. I mean, when I'm usually losing it, she's completely not. And when she's losing it, I'm usually not. And so we've learned that like there's still balance in our life, even though we both love and crave the same things.
Right.
But my goodness, yeah, like she has inspired so much of the songwriting that I've done just in her walking in who she truly is. And there's even a song on the record called Bloom, and I was feeling really low one day, and it was raining outside because it was like dead winter, and she had a wedding coming up, and I was sitting like at the window all depressed with my guitar, and just like I had a deadline for this song, and I was like, I do not feel like writing anything pleasant right now. And we live in an old house, so you really have to like kick the doors open. So she quite literally kicked the door open, and she had this like armful of these gorgeously colored flowers. And I kind of saw this like sacred, I saw this like opportunity for a sacred moment in the contrast between what she was holding and what was happening outside. And I was like, where'd you get those flowers, you know? She's like, just the flower mart. And I was like, stuff like that grows right now? And she's like, yeah. And it was such a cool moment. Instead of writing this whole song just about how like in every season something's growing, you know, and there's beauty to be found. That's just one minute kind of testimony of what it's like to be married to her. She is a complete dreamer, and I feel like if I would have married anyone else, they would have long left me by now, because we have taken chances that if other people were to look on paper, they would just think we were insane. Financially, like situations we've made that have just made us completely scared and uncomfortable, but every one of them has paid off. The only reason any of that has happened is because I married a dreamer who understands the lens that I view the world through. Right. And we're dreaming right now of our first together art project and what that could look like, and I'm so excited. Very because cool. She's my number one source of inspiration for sure. So that's what it's like. It's a mess. But if you were to like go to our house, I mean, our house is chaos right now. There's like floral clippings over here and my papers over here. And so with that, we have a lot of. So with all the strengths, we have a lot of areas in our life that we tend to neglect because we both neglect the same things. Yeah. And so that's the downfall of marrying someone who's so much like you, is that you both also have the same things you neglect and the same things you don't see. And so we're trying to grow in that right now.
That's interesting, man.
Yeah.
So would you say some of your music, I guess, is like worship music, or I guess that's a weird term to use because I had a whole like
genre thing.
Yeah, I had a huge discussion with this about somebody about like you can't like you don't call a Jewish musician a Jewish artist or something like that. Like, so you wouldn't do the same thing with like it's weird to do it with Christian artists, but then again, there's whole radio stations dedicated to like Christian musicians and stuff too.
Exactly. So. Oh, it's wild. It's actually right over the freeway. It's Caleb's right there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's wild. So that is it's a great question, because I think it does bring a conversation to the table that needs to continue to happen.
Right. Or I guess why not, like, why not also, like, consider it, like, why wouldn't you write, I mean, you play acoustic guitar, so why not an acoustic record?
Exactly.
Or why not, like,
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, man. I think there's, like, every artist operating in their fullness has a specific, regardless if they believe in the Lord or whatever, like, we're all fueled by, for the most part, change in something, right? We see the world, we see things that the world is missing, or we see things that inspire us about the world, and it's either our response to something that we love, or it's our engagement towards things that we hate. I feel like most artists will have something to say about one of those. I'm a little bit of both, definitely a little bit of both of those things. So when I sat down to make this record, I'll just say it plainly, like, I set out to make a singer-songwriter record, because it's a genre that I've always looked up to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I will always probably naturally be writing. And I did write a singer-songwriter record, and that's exactly what it is. So if you were to go listen to it right now, very few people would be like, oh, this is a corporate worship record, or a Christian record, or whatever people want to call it. Most people probably wouldn't think about it that way, and there have been a lot of non-believers, so to speak, who have listened to the record and have had to really dig to know that it is about a lot of it's about my faith. And but I think to unpack the question a little more, like, I think I've seen two worlds right now, and what's funny is I'm operating in both of them as a worship leader and a singer-songwriter. It's kind of cool. But what I've kind of my conclusion right now anyways, this might change next year or the year after, is that there are a lot of people completely on both sides of the fence. There are a lot of people that are doing quite well for themselves in the Christian music industry, on the radio. They're paying the bills well. They're bringing hope to believers, and maybe they're bringing hope to non-believers too, who happen to stumble into a song on the radio or whatever. I can't neglect that is happening. But I've also existed the polar opposite, where there's a lot of embittered souls towards the wounds that have grown up from that.
Right.
And so they're primarily writing and creating out of that space. And I know, because I've been there, and there's probably a song or two on the record that's written from that place. But at the end of the day, I want to exist. I want to be able to exist right where I'm supposed to. And the simple term that I've come up with is that, man, it is so lazy to hate. And that's kind of where my mind is telling me to be right now, is that hatred in my mind is just laziness. Because if I look at anything in a glimpse, I could probably write about 50 things that I hate about it, but I wouldn't be able to tell you what I love about it. Right. And so I think my dream for the music that I create is to be a completely honest representation of what I am perceiving and what I know or feel or think to be true. And what that does for me is it gives me opportunities to hopefully live and thrive in both arenas.
Right.
And because I don't want to say that my motivation in this record was simply missional, even though it was missional. Like, my dream would be for a completely broken person to be able to listen to these songs and find hope in them, regardless of what they believe to be true. And maybe they'll hear my wrestle with my faith. There's 2 songs on the record that are about me questioning if I actually believe what I believe.
Gotcha.
You wouldn't really find that on a Christian record. But I wanted to put it on there because it was real, and it's something I didn't want to pretend didn't exist, And so I guess in a roundabout question, I don't really want to call it anything. But if I could call it something, I would call it singer-songwriter, because I'm simply singing and writing exactly what's happening in my life. I'm not writing it with a motivation to make money on Christian radio, and I'm not writing it with a motivation of being so cool and dethroning that world. I'm just simply telling my story, and I'm hoping that the honesty in that process, it is more what is heard and felt than anything else in it, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I'm trying to just hopefully, I see a wasteland in the middle road between these two worlds, and I'm trying to fill it with something good so I can bring a new conversation to the table of like, hey, maybe they're not Satan, and maybe they're not, you know what I'm saying? It's like, wait, there's gotta be something more to this. But worship is just a heart posture to me. So there's definitely some worship songs on this record because I'm literally talking to the Lord in almost all of them.
Right.
So, yeah.
But I don't think that's either, like, I mean, I don't think, like, being a music connoisseur, somebody doesn't, isn't able to play music at all, but somebody does it. It's like, if you look at my, iTunes playlist right now, I have, like, on one part of it, Led Zeppelin and, like, Jay-Z and stuff, but then on the other hand, I've got, like, worship artists, too. So it's like, I don't think, like, just as much as I think there's artists who, like, kind of branch between the two or whatever, are just normal people. It's
You're
like,
so right.
I think there's also people who listen to music who are just like, I like this, but I also can listen to this, too, so it's like...
You're so right. And I think that's a cool thing, too, is like, man, I just want to be someone who values art. I know there are people out there that are called to be critics of it, and I could never do that properly. I would be horrible at it. But I just want to be someone who values art. So if it means I got to look a little harder into it to see what's good about it, then I'll go on that journey myself, But I'm definitely not a critic. And, I probably am on the surface most of the time, but I guess I'm challenging myself to go the distance and find beauty in unexpected places, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it does,
And, but I'm the same as you. Like, when I listen to a song, the first thing that I can feel is or at least the thing I think I can feel is the songwriter's motivation. And if that's off, I probably won't listen to it longer than a minute.
Right.
But if their motivation is on, then it draws me in, whether I agree with the genre it is or not. It still draws me into this sort of experiential listening. And I think that's always what I've wanted to write, is like, I'm not good at writing songs that you'll just roll the windows down to on a summer day and bumping down 101, but I want to write songs that hopefully take people into a different place and just force them into like diving into who they are and finding hope in who they are. So yeah.
Very cool. How do you feel? Have you ever thought about what it's going to be like when your daughter hears this stuff?
Yeah.
Or does she listen to it now?
That's cool that you asked that. That's wild. I think about that all the time. I've had this conversation with a few people, and I guess it kind of branches off too on our conversation of what genre did I choose to write or whatever. Something that really excites me is like, if I'm really embracing honesty and courage in my songwriting, it should be something that I'm proud to leave behind for my future kids, grandkids, great-grandkids to listen to.
Right.
And so I've made it's something I've added to my value system of songwriting, and it keeps me, I think it's going to, anyways, keep me centered, is that when I make a record, I want my great-great-great-grandkids to be able to stumble across it and know me through that project. And so, but Topography, the reason why I'm so proud of it is not because of any other reason other than when that happens and they listen to it, they will know exactly who I was in this season.
Right.
And I didn't water it down, I didn't pretty it up, I just left it. And I wish so badly that I had that from a distant relative in my family tree. I think that would be so cool. And it's one of the cool things... Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
It's my wife. It's one of the cool things that I have learned to really think about a lot with songwriting as I'm writing songs. It's like, you know what, this literally is a way for me to permanently stamp a season into, regardless if only a handful of people hear it, but into history of like my family, my daughter. They'll all be able to be like, who was Brett Lee Miller, And
right.
They'll have this sort of documentation, and I journal a lot too, so they'll always have that. But music is just its own method of communication, and I think about it a lot, and I get really excited. And I would challenge any new songwriters out there or writers, if you're finding the writing process a little mundane, just think about that for 2 seconds. That your art isn't just stopping with the immediate reaction that you see 10 minutes after you post it on iTunes.
Right.
But if you put the conviction and thoughtfulness into your writing, and you actually think about beauty that lies in your legacy being left behind forever. It challenges me to really, really, really write, and not just to throw something out there, and write a cheesy hit or whatever that's going to be gone in 20 minutes. But yeah, so I think about that all the time. It's a really cool question that you came up with, because it really, really gets me excited about, man, when I'm long gone, people are going to be able to hear and experience my story a little bit,
Right. It's like kind of like leaving an audio photograph behind, almost, in a weird way.
You nailed it. Dude, you nailed it. And it really excites me to keep writing, too, because it's, I don't know, I love that. And it also keeps me writing honest, too, because I don't want to leave behind someone that I'm not,
Right, exactly. So,
yeah. I'm excited about it. My daughter's already, I don't want to we try really hard, because we're both so creative, my wife and I.
Mm-hmm.
We try really hard to not assume she's going to be an artist.
Because
she'll grow up and be like, I want to be construction worker.
Yeah.
We'll be like, what? But dude, she's already, so she's 2. She's going to be 3 May 29th, which is pretty soon, whenever you're watching this.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty soon. And she's already writing songs. I call her Princess Blueberry. It's like this weird name that I've given her. And she got a guitar or ukulele from Grandpa for her last birthday, or Christmas, sorry. And we heard her in the other room the other day, literally singing a song about herself, and obviously not playing anything on guitar. She's trying. And then
there's a story right there.
To cap it off, it's so funny to cap it off. The next couple of days, our cat is horribly sick right now, and so she's like, this sounds horrible, but we think she might be like dying, and she's in our house right now, and we're like trying to care for her. But the other day, she grabs her ukulele and she sits down on the floor, and no one enticed this, and she starts singing about it. she starts singing. She goes, "My cat's sick," and she's singing it, and I'm like, this is crazy.
You got a future Phoebe on your hands.
I know, yeah. Phoebe. Dude, that's a good Friends reference. That's funny. Yeah, but or if we replace it with a dog, we have a country hit.
Oh, so there you go. Yeah,
the
any country hit.
Too. My dog's dead. Yeah, so it's just funny because she is definitely constantly surrounded with creativity, and to see her just naturally pouring it out is really exciting for us. So
that's very cool.
Yeah, but we'll see.
Some fun things to look forward to.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
As a music fan, any new music you've heard that you could recommend to anyone that's not Brett Lee Miller?
Dude, it's so constant. It's so unbelievably constant. My gosh, bro. It's such a good question.
Did you hear the new Underdog stuff?
I did hear, the new single. Yeah. Did they put out anything else?
No, it comes out April 6th, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not one of those Christians that was super jarred by the language. It's like, bro, if that's what you're feeling, then put it out there.
There's a lot of interesting controversy around that.
But it's funny because, like, the singles never tell the whole story. If you're doing it well, like, singles stir an emotion, and then it gets you waiting for what's next. I think that's probably what they're doing, is they probably picked something to stir the pot so people are kind of slapped in the face with what's next. That's my assumption, is that the record's actually going to probably be pretty awesome.
I hope so too.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But dude, yeah, the stream for me is so constant. And I also listen to music,
or I guess even
all over the board genre-wise, but
maybe a better question to ask would be like any artist that you can think of that would like inspire you, or like people that
yes. One of a massive inspiration for me is he was from Portland, but Josh Garrels is a huge inspiration for me, because, like, going back to the family piece, he's almost like catered his entire artistic career around the idea that family doesn't have to be put on the back burner. You know, the way he makes his records, the way he even tours, he goes out to these pocketed regions and then does really short runs and then comes home, and I'm like really inspired by that. Basically, anyone who's operating in that middle ground, especially spiritually too, that we were talking about earlier, Josh Garrels and Jean-Marc McMillan are two guys that I've always looked up to creatively. there's a guy named John Lucas who I always recommend everyone to. He's one of the reasons why I went to North Carolina to record, because I heard a record that he put out and it was just heart-wrenchingly beautiful that I had to go to the same place with the same guy and make a record, and he's one of the reasons I went out there. One guy who gives me hope for humanity almost every day is Ryan O'Neal. He writes music under Sleeping at Last. He is putting out this project of... are you familiar with Enneagram personality types?
No.
So there's this beautiful sort of personality thing that just came out called Enneagram, and basically it's this beautiful way of knowing yourself better. And he decided to go out and make a project about each personality type, and so he has a song dedicated, and so you literally listen to the song that's catered to the way that you view the world, and it's just like mind expanding.
Wow.
And so definitely look that up. But anything by Ryan O'Neal is something that has he deeply inspires me to consistently write ridiculously honest music, regardless of which side of the fence I'm on. Genre-wise, beautiful, and he also scores a lot of movies. So if you're into that sort of thing, he's a guy to listen to.
Ryan O'Neal. Okay.
Yes, you would love him, man. He's amazing. Let's see, who else? Loud Harp is a band that I've always looked up to. If you want a real, authentic, moving worship experience that is untainted by the genre, just look up Loud Harp, one word, don't put any spaces, and they're basically just modern day psalmists and just write the most beautiful songs out of the seasons that they go through. They inspire me to not walk away from worship a lot. Every time I hear them put out a project, I'm like, okay, the real thing is still happening. The real thing is still happening.
That's cool.
And so yeah, I guess that's a good kind of starter list. But yeah,
sweet, man.
Yeah, there's so many. When you asked me that question, I just saw a haze of names. I'm like, who do I say? Who do I say? Who do I say?
There.
You know, yeah, like who do I say? But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I've listened to Josh Garrels too, or at least have I think I have one CD, maybe one or two CDs on him. But he's cool, man.
Yeah, he's awesome.
So.
No, he's awesome. He's one of those guys too who a lot of his songs, especially on his home record. I mean, if you just read the lyrics, you'd be like, oh, this is a worship record. But then all of a sudden you turn on the music and you're put back in your seat of out of just the sheer creativity that he puts into his songwriting, and his voice is so unique and everything. So yeah, I look up to that guy a lot, and hopefully I'll get to meet him one day. We know some of the same people in the industry, but he recently moved away from Portland, so it might extend our meeting place and time. But one day.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening, it's called Topography.
Topography. Yep. Topography. Topography.
It's on.
But if you just search anything that you use, so Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon, Google, whatever you want, just type my full name, Brett Lee Miller, and it'll come up. Yeah, don't put Brett Miller. There's a couple other guys out there that are awesome.
Not knocking you.
If you're listening, you're awesome. Goodness. But yeah, Brett Lee Miller is is kind of the umbrella that any of the new music that I do or have done will be under.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Yes,
sweet.
Yes.
And I'll link it too on my podcast. You guys I'll put it down there for anybody. But yeah.
Please do. Thanks, man.
Thanks for doing the podcast.
Thanks for thinking of me, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I'm honored. Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening to the Underdog Podcast. Have a good rest of your day.
See you later.
Oh, I think we are broken hearts married to perfect scars like works of art.